I am Harold Thompson, 83 years old, hair white as the snow of a Wisconsin winter, eyes dimmed by old age, but memories still sharp enough to make my heart ache. Lord, I never thought I'd be telling this story. For more than 50 years I've kept only one image in my head, Clara Bennett. Her face, that smile, the way she tilted her head when she listened to me talk about my dreamy engineer's sketches. I've spent half a century wondering what the hell happened to her, and when I finally found out, everything turned out completely upside down from what I imagined. I need to tell you this right now, before I lose all my courage and take it to the grave. Listen here, I'm no saint. I'm just an ordinary old man who made the biggest mistake of his life. Let me take you back to 1965. I was 19 years old, working at my uncle's lumber mill in the town of Oakwood, Wisconsin. A tiny town, population about 3,500 people, the kind of place where everyone knows everyone. Rumors spread faster than the wind off Lake Michigan. I was saving every penny to go to college, dreaming of becoming a construction engineer, designing solid bridges and cozy homes. Back then I didn't have any girlfriend. My mind was all about blueprints and the future. Then, one hot July afternoon at the town's summer fair, bells ringing loudly, the smell of popcorn everywhere, I accidentally bumped into her. Clara, long silky brown hair, warm brown eyes like honey, wearing a light green dress printed with wildflowers. Her family had just moved to Oakwood because her dad got a job at the agricultural equipment factory. We only talked for about 20 minutes, but I felt like the whole world stopped turning. 2 days later, I ran into her again in the games area of the fair. We went on the Ferris wheel together, laughing hysterically as the wind blew our hair around, then bought a vanilla ice cream cone to share. From then on, throughout that entire summer, we stuck together like glue. After work at the lumber mill, I'd run straight to the lake shore, where we often rented a rowboat or picnicked under the ancient oak trees in the small forest by the lake. Clara dreamed of becoming a journalist. She always carried a notebook to jot down little stories about the townspeople, those tiny details that only she noticed. I told her about my sketches, the bridges I wanted to build, the tall buildings I imagined would spring up in big cities. She listened as if those dreams were more important than her own career. We'd lie on the grass, watching the clouds drift by, planning our future. After I graduated from college, we'd travel across America together in an old truck, then come back and build a life from scratch. I was young, foolish, and believed that love was enough to overcome everything. On August 29th, 1965, the last day I saw her, we sat by the lakeshore at sunset. Clara was quieter than usual. I asked what was wrong, my voice trembling. She looked at me, eyes glistening with tears, and said that her dad had received urgent orders to transfer to Texas in just 3 days. My heart felt like it stopped beating. I grabbed her hand tightly, said we'd get through it, write letters regularly. I'd fly down to visit her every break. She cried, hugged me really tight, whispered that she didn't want me to wait. My life was still long ahead. I replied that I chose to wait. No one was forcing me. We kissed under the setting sun. She promised to write every week. I promised to wait. 3 days later, she disappeared from the town as if she had never existed. I waited for the letter. Every day I'd run to the mailbox before the sun rose, heart pounding like a drum. The first week was fine. I told myself maybe she was settling in. The first month passed. Still no line. I started to worry, wondering if I'd done something wrong. By Christmas, I had to face the harsh truth. Not a single letter. I tried to find her, called the information operator in Texas, wrote letters to the vague address she once mentioned, even asked friends at college to help search. Nothing at all. In the end, I had to accept that she had left and didn't want to be found. Life went on. I went to college, met Eleanor, a kind, smart girl who always smiled at me even when I was distracted. We got married in 1968, had a son and a daughter. I became a construction engineer, designing real projects instead of the old dreams. Life was normal, stable, but Clara still lingered somewhere in my head like a ghost. Eleanor knew. She never said it outright, but I knew she knew. We lived together for 44 years. She taught kindergarten, raised the kids to be good, built a cozy home with me. She passed away in 2012 from heart disease, lying in the hospital bed in her final weeks. She held my hand and whispered, "Harold, I hope you find her. I hope you get an answer." I was stunned, tried to deny it, but she shook her head, smiled wearily. "I've known for a long time. That girl from Oakwood, the one you think about every time you think you're with me. It's okay. I had a beautiful life with you, but you always kept a part of your soul for the past." She squeezed my hand one last time. "Promise me you'll live for the present after I'm gone." I promised, but I didn't keep my word. I still clung to Clara's image in my heart, like an old book that wouldn't close. 2 months ago, my granddaughter, the 18-year-old tech-savvy one, convinced me to join some social media. She said it was to stay in touch with great-grandkids, with old friends. One sleepless night, I held my phone and scrolled, and the friend suggestion feature popped up. I stared at that profile picture. Clara, gray hair, wearing glasses, but those eyes were still those eyes. She lived in a town just 3 hours' drive away, in Illinois. 3 hours, after 50 years. My hand shook so much I almost dropped the phone. I sat there for a whole hour, heart pounding like it would burst, wondering if I should send a message. Finally I typed, "Clara, it's Harold from Oakwood, 1965. I've thought about you every day for the past half-century." I hit send, then sat waiting like a 19-year-old kid. 3 days later, the reply message appeared. "Harold, I remember you. I'd be very happy if you're free this Saturday. Shall we meet at the coffee shop between the two towns?" I read it over and over dozens of times, tears rolling down my wrinkled old cheeks. Lord, after all these years and months, finally some news. I replied agreeing, set a specific time. The following days were hell. I couldn't sleep, just muttering to myself in the dark living room, remembering every detail of that summer long ago. Clara's laughter when we rowed the boat, the smell of pine wood from the mill, the way she brushed her hair when the wind blew. I wondered if she had changed much, if she still remembered those promises from back then. And more importantly, why no letter at all? What the hell happened? I drove around the old town, stopped by the lake shore that was now partly dried up, sat under the old oak tree, my heart full of turmoil. The life I built with Eleanor was so good, but I still let Clara occupy a dark corner of my heart. You young people today, do you ever wonder how an unfinished romance can destroy so many years? I know it well. It stole so many real moments with my wife and kids from me. I started thinking more about life lessons. Holding on to the past is like hugging a ghost. It doesn't sustain you. It just makes you die slowly from the inside. I missed so many of Eleanor's smiles because my mind wandered to a lake in Wisconsin. My son grew up, now a doctor, often asking why Dad is so pensive. I just smiled evasively. My daughter always said, "Dad, life is so short, don't live in regrets." But I didn't listen. Now, as I prepare to meet Clara, I feel both excited and terrified, afraid that meeting will destroy the beautiful illusion I've cherished for 50 years, afraid that she has her own life and I'm just a faint memory. Have you ever wondered, if we dared to let go sooner, would life be different? I'm asking myself that every second, every minute. That Saturday came faster than I thought. I wore my old suit, drove 3 hours, heart pounding like a drum. The coffee shop was between the two towns. By the highway, the smell of baked goods and coffee wafting. I arrived half an hour early, sat by the window, eyes glued to the parking lot. Every car passing by, I jumped. Then I saw her step out of a silver sedan. Clara. She walked slower than before, hair completely white, but her figure still graceful. We hugged lightly, not saying anything for a moment, then sat down, ordered 2 black coffees. The initial conversation was awkward, asking about kids, work, health. I felt like I was in a dream, but then I couldn't hold it in anymore. I asked straight the question that had haunted me for 50 years. Why didn't you write to me, Clara? She looked down at her coffee cup, silent for a long time. The air was tense like a stretched string. I held my breath, waiting. This was the moment I had waited for all my life, and I knew, whatever the answer, it would change everything. Clara sat silent for a long time, her fingers twirling the spoon in the thick black coffee. The air in the shop seemed to thicken. I could hear my own heart pounding clearly. "Harold," she said softly, her voice trembling as if holding back tears. "I did write. I wrote to you for months on end. Not just 1 or 2 letters, but almost 1 letter every week for 18 months straight. I told everything, from how Texas was so hot I hated it bitterly, to the nights I lay awake missing the Oakwood lake and the way you smiled when talking about your bridge sketches. I sent every single one. I remembered the address crystal clear. I gaped, feeling like someone had just punched me in the chest. But I never received a single line, not one. I checked the mailbox every morning, before it was even fully light. Sometimes even before my dad got up. I thought you forgot me, or worse, you were never sincere." My voice faltered. I gripped the edge of the table so hard my knuckles turned white. Clara lifted her head, those brown eyes now full of water, but she didn't cry. She just looked at me, as if looking through 50 years of dust. "I thought the same about you," she whispered. After 18 months with no reply, I heard from an old friend in Oakwood. She said you had gotten engaged to another girl, the daughter of the mill owner. I collapsed. I thought you had chosen a different path. You had forgotten the promise by the lake. So I stopped. I told myself I had to let go, had to move on. But I didn't know it was just a ridiculous rumor made up by people jealous of our summer. She smiled sadly, a smile that made my heart break. My dad, he didn't support it, but he didn't block the letters. He just told me that his daughter deserved a better future than a dreamy kid in a small town. I believed him because I was in so much pain. I sat there, mouth bitter, coffee cold without touching it. Lord, for 50 years we both held the exact same pain, both built stories in our heads to survive. I told her about Eleanor, about how she knew everything but still stayed by my side, about the final promise on the hospital bed. Clara listened, nodded slowly. Then she told about her life. She went to college, became a real journalist, wrote for big papers in Chicago, married twice. First divorced because her husband cheated, second widowed by a car accident in 1998. She had 3 children, 7 grandchildren, and 2 best-selling novels that I never knew about. "I thought about you every day for the first 23 years, she said, her voice lowering. By 1988, I realized holding on to you only kept me from truly loving real life. I let go. I lived, Harold. I lived fully." The climax of our story wasn't in the lost letters or the false rumors. It was the moment I realized, right there at that coffee table, that I had wasted 50 years loving a ghost. A version of 18-year-old Clara that I created in my head, not the woman sitting in front of me who had aged, had suffered, had grown in her own way. I took her hand, her thin, wrinkled hand, and said, "Clara, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I clung to you like a curse, while Eleanor was by my side. My children needed me. Real life was waiting for me to live it. My tears fell. I couldn't hold them back. She squeezed my hand back, didn't say anything, just smiled sadly. We sat there for hours. The coffee shop closed. The staff glanced at us a few times but didn't kick us out. We told everything, from happy memories to silent pains. I told her about my son, now a surgeon in Milwaukee, about my daughter, who convinced me to go on social media, now a teacher like Eleanor back then. Clara told about her journalism trips, about how she almost died from breast cancer in 2005, but beat it. We laughed together, remembering the time we got soaked in the rain by the lake, then went silent, remembering the promise to write every week. I felt strangely relieved, like someone had just lifted a 50-year-old rock off my shoulders. But that relief quickly turned into remorse. I went home, drove 3 hours in the night, my mind spinning. I thought about Eleanor, about those evenings she cooked, while I sat staring out the window, mind wandering back to Oakwood. I thought about my grandchildren, about the times they asked, "Dad, why are you so sad?" And I just smiled it off. My life, I was there physically, but my soul was forever stuck by that 1965 lakeshore. You young folks, if you're reading these lines, stop for a moment and ask yourself, what old pain are you holding on to in your heart? Is it worth missing the people right next to you? I paid with half a century. Don't let yourselves pay the same. The days after that, we still texted each other. Clara sent me links to read her 2 books. I read them and I cried when I realized the male lead in the first one had curly hair and bridge-building dreams just like me. She had written about us in her own way. I sent her some old sketches I still kept, the engineer drawings I never executed because my heart wasn't fully in it. We didn't arrange to meet again. No need. We weren't 19-year-old Harold and Clara anymore. We were 2 old people who had lived 2 parallel lives and finally touched each other just to say a real goodbye. I started to change. I cleaned up the house, hung Eleanor's photos on the living room wall, told my kids and grandkids the whole story, no more hiding. My daughter hugged me and cried, said, "Dad, I'm proud of you." My son called on video from the hospital, said, "Dad, finally, you're living for the present." I walked around the town, stopped at the old coffee shop, sat by the lake that had been renovated, and for the first time in 50 years, I didn't think about Clara. I thought about Eleanor, about her smile when our son first learned to walk, about how she taught me to truly love without needing fantasies. The lesson here, folks, is that the past is not a place to return to. It's a lesson, not a home. I spent half a century loving someone I created in my head. A perfect Clara, flawless, not aging, without her own life. But real life isn't like that. Real life is wrinkles, mistakes, the people by your side when you're distracted. If you're carrying the pain of loss, regretting an unfinished romance, living in regret, let it go. Letting go isn't forgetting, but making room in your heart for what's happening right now. I know it's hard. It feels like losing them again, but holding on is losing yourself. I'm 83 years old, finally have an answer after 50 years. Don't do like me. Don't spend your whole life looking backward. Look at the person sitting next to you right now. They're real, they're here, and they deserve everything you have. Have you ever wondered, if you let go sooner, how much happier you would be? Do you think that old pain is stealing your future? And most importantly, are you ready to live for the present yet, or are you still waiting for a letter from years ago? What do you think about my story? Comment below with your regrets, like if you find it worth pondering, and subscribe so you don't miss other real-life stories. Life is so short, don't waste it.